Hey guys, Bido here to tell you about an EP from a UK deathcore band called To Obey a Tyrant. The name of this release is Frigore Inferni. Comes out February 21st on Seek and Strike. It has 6 tracks, 30 minutes in length. Now this EP is a concept release. It tells the story of 2 evil creatures that plunge Earth into a frozen apocalypse. Now, maybe because of how this EP is put together, maybe because of the concept behind it, the overall release feels a lot more like a full-length record. The way the songs develop, the way the opening track, Apollyon, and the closing song, Winter's Rite, the way these tracks open up and close the record, you really feel like you're listening to a full-length album. It has all the ebbs and flows that you would expect from a full-length release, not necessarily from an EP. This adds value to it. It adds value to the concept, it adds value to the story, it adds value to the overall experience that the listener will get from it. Outside of that, I can tell you that this band merges symphonic elements, black metal elements, and obviously having deathcore as its spinal cord of everything that they do. Considering the concept, considering the idea, considering the story, having black metal and symphonic metal in your back pocket adds a lot of value to the sound, to the texture, to the way the song comes across, to the way the individual songs come across, and to the way the full EP comes together. It makes it feel more cinematic. It gives it a little bit of a larger than life perspective. It creates a sense of epicness behind each and every single track, and then it has the right amount of darkness, of coldness, to really allow the story to enthrall the listener and captivate your attention from the first drop all the way to the last. These to me are important elements when you're analyzing this release by To Obey a Tyrant. Now, looking at the individual songs, the record starts off with Apollyon. Super cinematic intro. The song has a built-in intro to it that I think it's really important to set up the tone for the concept, to set up the tone for the record. It allows you to weave yourself into the song, into the concept a lot better. It's an easier transition versus getting the song going right away. It's a track that interlaces this more sense of melody with a sense of brutality, both on a musical front and on a vocal front. It never really loses its cinematic haze. This is a track that even at its heaviest, both from a vocal standpoint and a musical standpoint, it always has a sense of a cinematic approach. It has all the ebbs and flows, it has all the right cliffhangers, and allowing that more orchestrational melody to creep in, creep out, creep in, creep out, allows that cinematic vibe to stay present all the way through. And this is an important aspect because it is the opening song. It has to set the tone, it has to set the table for everything that comes after, and I believe that it does that extremely well. It's a very atmospheric track at times, but it never loses sense of its aggression, its intensity, and its power. Next you have Obsidian Sol. The guitar melody on this track specifically is very dark. It's very dark, it's very haunting, it's very sinister. While Apollyon had a little bit more of an epic cinematic experience, this song still has a little bit of that, but it's not as open. When it opens up, it feels dark, and that darkness kind of caves everything in and allows the track to feel a little bit more compact. It still has the cinematic drive behind it, but it also has a lot of heaviness, a lot of brutality being delivered. So it's a track that feels that it goes a little bit deeper into this well of darkness and coldness to allow the story to develop in a different direction, and you start to see the evilness that's coming to the earth, started by these 2 creatures. So it's a track that musically, perhaps more so than vocally, develops the story, develops the concept. Vocally, you have that still same style deliver with ebbs and flows, with dynamics and movements and fluidity between the little bit of a deeper, harsher vocal approach and then the one that allows you to feel like the weight is coming a little bit off of your shoulders. It's a great track because it's where I feel the story really starts to develop, or at least the concept and the colder side of this story really starts to take shape. Then you have Dawnbreaker. The choirs, the orchestrations on this track give it size. And they give it size like no other track before. This track is really different from that standpoint because this is the first song where not only the orchestrational aspect of the music is present, but also the choirs are present, creating almost more a symphonic death metal song than a deathcore song with symphonic elements. This track kind of switches over to the other side of the spectrum as far as the musicality of the track is concerned. From a vocal approach, the more traditional deathcore style is still there, and that's how they were able to balance out this track. It has great orchestrational pieces. It has great grooviness even during the heavier guitar moments. It has this ability to be bright but still bring a sense of darkness attached to it. It's a really interesting song. To me, it's one of the most textured songs up to this point. Then you have Frigore Inferni. This track is similar to Dawnbreaker, but it feels more epic. It doesn't feel as constricted. It feels a little bit more open, like it has a little bit more room to breathe. It still has nearly all the same elements as Dawnbreaker had, but it feels more consistent, at least as far as the heaviness is concerned. It gives you a more balanced experience from beginning to end, and it becomes easily the climax of the record. It has a cold, it has a dark ambiance to it, it has an epic sound that instead of infusing brightness into the song, it enhances that darkness and coldness that the track has. And I felt like the vocals on this song did the exact same thing, and that's why this track to me felt like the climax of this record. Then you have Prince of Death, a little bit closer to what Dawnbreaker delivered, but still with a heavy dependence on the orchestral side. And when I say closer to what Dawnbreaker delivered, I don't mean in terms of sound on vocals. I mean in terms of the vibe, the overall construction, the way the song is presented. It's very cinematic, it's very dynamic, it's very fluid. A really interesting track that doesn't have that same sort of climax that Frigore Inferni had right before it. It's a little bit more a downswing, if you will. The story is taking a different turn. It's going in a different direction. It's approaching its end. There's a sense of finality in the horizon. That's how this song comes across. And then speaking of finality in the horizon, Winter's Rite, the closing track, it definitely has a sense of ending to it. I felt like this was the least dark song on the record, the least cold sounding song on the record. I love the guitar sound on this track. It has a really interesting uniqueness. It has a really interesting texture. It has a sound that you haven't heard up until this point, and that guitar sound mixed in with everything else that the song delivers allowed this song to lose a little bit of the darkness, perhaps not more than a little bit, but to lose that darkness, to lose that sense of coldness, gain some warmth, and feel very accommodating. It's a track that embraces the listener, gives you this sense of finality. This is it. This is the end. There's nothing more beyond it. Sometimes it almost feels like the cold embrace of death, but in that cold embrace, you're able to find some warmth. That's exactly how this song is delivered to the audience. This is it. This is the EP from To Obey a Tyrant, Frigore Inferni, once again out February 21st on Seek and Strike. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Hit me up in the comment section. I'll see you all at the next video. Take care, guys.